UES Hobo drifted silently through the darkness of space, looking less like a warship and more like a pile of scrap metal that had been forgotten by the universe. It sat near the edge of the United Earth Alliance territory, a place known as the Garbage Sector. Here, there were no grand planets to explore or brave battles to fight. There were only asteroids, old satellites, and the quiet hum of the ship's aging engine. The paint on the hull had peeled away years ago, revealing patches of gray metal that looked like ugly scars. The antennas on the outside were bent at weird angles, held together by what looked like silver tape. To anyone passing by, the ship was a joke. It was a rust bucket that should have been retired decades ago. Inside the ship, the bridge was quiet but not peaceful. The air smelled like old coffee and burned wires. Captain Liam sat in the commander's chair, which squeaked every time he shifted his weight. He was a man with tired eyes and gray hair, wearing a shirt that was not perfectly pressed. He took a slow sip from a mug that had a crack running down the side. He stared at the main screen, which showed nothing but stars and floating rocks. He sighed deeply. It was just another boring day in the most boring part of space. Are they moving yet? Captain Liam asked, his voice sounding rough and tired. In the corner of the room, Ensign Kara was looking at her radar screen. She was young and still had high hopes about her job, even though the ship was a mess. She tapped on the glass of her screen with her fingernail, trying to make the sensors work faster. "No, sir," Kara said. "The asteroids are just floating. The trash is drifting. Nothing is happening out there. It is all very boring." "Good," Liam muttered. "I like boring. Boring is safe. Boring means we don't have to fix the hull again." On the other side of the bridge, Lieutenant Jay was leaning back in his chair with his feet up on the control panel. He was not looking at the stars. He was holding a small, flat screen in his hands and playing an old video game from Earth. The game made small beeping noises as he pressed the buttons. He was the weapons officer, but there were no weapons to fire. "Jay, get your feet off the console," Liam said without turning his head. "It helps me aim, sir," Jay joked, not moving his feet. "The buttons are sticky? If I don't apply pressure with my heel, the targeting system resets." "The targeting system is from the last century, Jay. It doesn't need pressure. It needs a miracle," Kara said with a small smile. "I still can't believe we are on this ship. My friends are on the shiny new ships protecting the core worlds. They see fighting and adventure. I'm looking at space trash." "Adventure is overrated," Jay said, finally taking his feet down. "In the stories, the heroes get shot at. Here, the only thing shooting at us is the boredom. Look at this ship, Kara. We are the laughingstock of the fleet. They gave us a ship named Hobo. They didn't even give it a cool name like Victory or Star Crusher. We are the trash collectors." Liam put his coffee mug down. "We are not trash collectors. We are guarding the flank. It is an important job. If anyone comes through this sector, we are the first line of defense." "Who is coming out here, sir?" Jay asked. "Space pirates? They don't want this junk? Aliens?" "They haven't been seen in 50 years. We are safe." Suddenly, the quiet bridge was filled with a loud buzzing sound. The lights flickered once, then turned red. The sound was the alarm, but it sounded like an angry horn. Kara sat up straight, her fingers flying across her keyboard. "Captain, I am reading a massive energy spike. It is not an asteroid. It is huge." Liam sat up straighter, his eyes narrowing. "Location?" "Directly ahead, coming out of hyperspace," Kara said, her voice shaking a little. On the main screen, the space in front of them seemed to tear open. A blinding blue light erupted, and then ships began to appear. Not just one ship, but hundreds of them. They poured out of the blue portal like silver water, filling the screen. These ships were beautiful. They had smooth, curved hulls that reflected the starlight. They were long and sharp, with glowing engines that pulsed with blue energy. They looked dangerous and advanced. Jay dropped his video game. It hit the floor with a clatter. "What is that?" "That is an Earth Alliance design." "No," Liam whispered, standing up slowly. "It isn't." The screen filled with data as the ship's computer tried to identify the new arrivals. The ships were gold and silver, perfect in every way. There were small fighters, large cruisers, and massive dreadnoughts in the center. It was an armada. A fully armed military fleet. Kara stared at the screen in terror. There are so many of them. The computer can't even count them all. They are Xylophians. It has to be. The race we were warned about in the academy. Liam watched the screen with a calm face. They are Xylophians. And they have brought a lot of friends. On the bridge of the largest alien ship, the Xylophian flagship, the lights were dim and elegant. Admiral Vox stood on a raised platform looking out at the stars. He was tall and thin, with skin that looked like polished blue stone. He wore a uniform that was covered in medals and gold threads. He believed he was the most powerful being in this sector of the galaxy. He had come to conquer, not to talk. Commander Rex stood next to him. Rex was looking at a holographic map of the solar system. He pointed a long finger at a small red dot near the edge of the system. "Admiral," Rex said, "our long-range sensors detected a metallic object in this sector. It appears to be a ship." Vok turned his head slowly, looking bored. "A ship? Is it a trap? Is it the Earth Alliance main fleet?" Rex shook his head. "No, Admiral. The energy signature is very low. The hull is deformed. It looks like a wreck. It is floating near the garbage belt. It is likely a civilian salvage ship or a transport that got lost." Vok laughed, a cold, high-pitched sound that echoed through the bridge. "A civilian ship? How pathetic. The humans send their trash to face us while they run away. Shall we destroy it, sir?" Rex asked. "It would only take one missile." "Do not waste your ammunition," Vok said, waving his hand as if he were shooing away a fly. "Ignore it. Focus the fleet on the planet. We will crush their cities and take their resources. I want the humans to see our power. That little ship is not a threat. It is probably barely flying. Look at the sensor readings. It is leaking radiation. It is falling apart." Rex looked at the data again. The red dot on the screen was barely moving. It looked ugly and weak compared to the beautiful armada of the Xylophians. "As you wish, Admiral. We will proceed to the planet." Back on the hobo, the bridge was silent except for the hum of the engines. Jay looked at the captain with wide eyes. "Sir, there are hundreds of ships. We are one rusty ship. We need to run. We need to hide in the asteroid belt. Can we run?" Liam asked. Kara checked her screens. "The engines are running at 50%. If we push them, we might move fast enough to get behind a moon, but I don't think they will chase us." "Why?" Jay asked. "Because they aren't looking at us," Kara said. "Look at their formation. They are moving past us. They are heading straight for the inhabited planet in this system." Liam watched the main screen. The massive alien fleet was moving with grace and speed. They were beautiful, deadly sharks swimming through the water. And there, in the middle of it all, was the tiny, ugly hobo. The alien ships flew right past them. Some of them came close enough that the hobo shook from the engine wake. "They are ignoring us," Jay said, sounding surprised. "They really think we are garbage." "They are arrogant," Liam said. He walked to the center of the bridge. "They think because our ship is old and ugly, we are weak. They think because we are small, we are no threat." "We are no threat, sir," Jay argued. "Our main gun hasn't been fired in 10 years. Our shields are held together by hope." Liam picked up his coffee mug and finished the last cold drink. He looked at the screen where the alien ships were filling the view, heading toward the planet where millions of humans lived. If the hobo ran, those people would die. The fleet would destroy the planet and leave. And the hobo would just drift away, safe and useless. "No," Liam said, his voice hard. "We are not garbage. We are the United Earth Alliance ship Hobo. And we have a job to do." He put the mug down on the console with a loud thud. "Jay," Liam said, "stop playing games." Jay stood up straight, his face pale. "Yes, sir." "Power up the weapons," Liam ordered. "All of them." Kara looked at him. Captain, are you sure? They outnumber us 1,000 to 1. Liam looked at the red dots on the screen, then at his tired crew. He smiled a little. It wasn't a happy smile. It was the smile of a man who had been waiting for a long time to do something that mattered. Sometimes, Kara, Liam said softly, people don't take you seriously until you break their nose. Let's go break their nose. Jay sat down at his weapons console and typed in the command codes. The old, rusty ship began to vibrate. Deep inside the hull, machinery that had been sleeping for years roared to life. Lights on the console changed from yellow to green. Targeting systems are... Online, sir, Jay said, sounding shocked. They are working. Open a channel, Liam said. Channel open, sir. But I don't think they are listening. Send a text message, Liam said. Simple and clear. Kara typed it in. What should it say? Liam looked at the back of the beautiful, deadly alien fleet. Tell them, Liam said, turn around or we will be forced to use excessive force. Kara sent the message. On the bridge of the Xylophian flagship, a small light blinked. Commander Rex saw the message appear on his screen. He read it and laughed. Admiral, Rex said, the garbage ship is hailing us. They sent a text message. It says, turn around or we will be forced to use excessive force. Vok laughed even louder. Excessive force? From that pile of rust? It is the funniest thing I have ever heard. Ignore them, Commander. Let the insects dream. It won't save them. On the hobo, the bridge was quiet. Jay watched the alien ships getting closer to the planet. They didn't reply, sir, Jay said. I didn't think they would, Captain Liam said, cracking his knuckles. Jay, spin up the main gun. Let's show them what happens when you ignore the ugly ship. The hobo turned its battered bow toward the unsuspecting fleet. The game was about to begin. The bridge of the UES hobo was quiet, but the silence was not peaceful. It was the silence of people holding their breath, waiting for something bad to happen. Outside the thick windows, the massive Xylophian fleet was moving like a swarm of silver locusts. They were heading toward the blue and green planet that floated in the distance. To the aliens, the planet was just a target, a place to conquer. To the humans on the hobo, it was home to millions of people who had no idea a death sentence was hanging over their heads. Captain. Liam stood with his hands clasped behind his back. He watched the main screen intently. The alien ships were so beautiful that it was almost hard to hate them. Their hulls were smooth and shiny, reflecting the light of the distant sun. They moved in perfect formation like dancers in a ballet. In contrast, the hobo was a mess. It was a clunky, dirty, ugly shape against the stars. Sir, Jay said, his fingers hovering over the weapons console, they are entering the planet's defense zone. The planetary defense satellites are activating. On the screen, small red dots appeared around the planet. These were the automated defense guns, old technology that the planet used for safety. They fired beams of red light at the approaching fleet. It looked impressive, like a fireworks show. However, the Xylophian ships did not even slow down. They simply raised their shields, and the red beams splashed harmlessly against the invisible barriers. Then, with a single volley of blue fire from the Lead alien cruisers, the defense satellites were blown into dust. Liam's face remained hard as stone. They aren't here to talk. They are here to wipe us out. We have to do something now, Kara said, her voice rising in panic. If we wait any longer, they will start bombing the cities. I know, Liam said. Jay, can you fire the main gun? Jay looked at his screen. The targeting reticle was shaking. The system is glitching, Captain. It says the alignment is off by 2 degrees. If I fire now, I might miss entirely. Fix it, Liam ordered. We don't need a perfect shot. We just need to get their attention. On the bridge of the Xylophian flagship, the mood was festive. Admiral Vok was sipping a blue drink from a crystal glass. He watched the destruction of the human defenses with a look of mild boredom. To him, fighting the humans was like stepping on an anthill. It was necessary, but not very exciting. Commander Rex, Vox said, turning to his second-in-command. How long until the planet surrenders? Rex checked a holographic display. Their military forces are minimal, Admiral. They are sending radio waves asking for mercy. We will begin landing troops within the hour. Good, Vox said. I want this sector secured by dinner time. Rex nodded, but then he paused. A small light was blinking on his console. It was a proximity alert. Admiral, that garbage ship is moving. It is changing course. Vox laughed. Is it trying to run away? Let it go. I have no interest in chasing down broken toys. No, sir, Rex said, looking closer at the data. It is not running away. It is accelerating. It is moving. Toward us. Vox put down his drink and walked over to the large window at the front of the bridge. He looked out into the void. There, floating among the stars, was the ugly human ship. It was sputtering black smoke, or whatever the space equivalent of smoke was from its engines. It looked like a tired old dog trying to chase a car. It is moving aggressively, Rex warned. Their weapon ports are opening. It looks like they are trying to arm their defenses. Vox shook his head. It is a desperate bluff. They know they cannot win. They want to die fighting. Fine, let them try. Send a warning shot across their nose. Scare them a little. On the bridge of the hobo, the alarms were screaming. Incoming? They shouted. One of their cruisers is locking onto us. Liam didn't flinch. Hold steady. Do not dodge. Let them see who we are. A bright beam of blue energy shot out from the Xylophian fleet. It screamed through the silence of space, passing just inches in front of the hobo's bow. The shockwave hit the ship, rocking it violently. The lights on the bridge flickered and sparks flew from an overhead panel. Kara fell out of her chair, but she scrambled back up quickly. Shields holding at 90%, she yelled. They barely scratched the paint. They were just toying with us, Liam said. Jay, status of the main gun? Jay was typing furiously. I bypassed the safety protocols. I have manual control. But the energy buildup is making the ship shake. The structural integrity can't take this for long. Just fire when ready, Liam said. Suddenly, a communication channel opened on the hobo. It was an audio channel from the Xylophian flagship. A voice filled the bridge. It was smooth, arrogant, and dripping with disdain. Human vessel, the voice said. It was Commander Rex. This is your only warning. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. Or, if you prefer, continue your foolish attack and die in the void. Your choice. Liam walked over to the communications console. He pressed the button to reply. This is Captain Liam of the US Hobo, he said calmly. We are not powering down. In fact, we are just getting started. You have entered our space and threatened our people. You have 10 seconds to turn your fleet around and leave. There was a pause on the line. Then the alien laughed. It was a cold, mocking sound. You have 10 seconds to live, the voice replied. Liam looked at Jay. Lieutenant? Main gun is charged, Captain. Jay shouted, sweat dripping down his face. Targeting the lead cruiser? The one that fired at us. Fire. The order hung in the air for a split second. Then Jay slammed his hand down on the big red button. For a moment, nothing happened. The bridge was silent. Then the hobo lurched backward as if it had been punched by a giant fist. But the recoil wasn't the important part. The important part was what shot out of the front of the ship. There was no fancy laser beam. There was no glowing plasma torpedo. Instead, there was a deafening thud that vibrated through the floorboards. A massive, dull gray projectile was launched from the belly of the hobo. It looked like a simple metal rod, about the size of a telephone pole, but moving at incredible speed. It was a kinetic railgun shot. Old technology. Simple physics. But in space, speed is everything. The projectile traveled the distance between the two ships in the blink of an eye. The Xylophians were not expecting physical ammunition. Their sensors were looking for energy signatures. They didn't see the metal rod coming until it was too late. The rod slammed into the front of the beautiful Xylophian cruiser. It didn't explode. It just punched through. It tore through the shiny outer hull, ripped through the internal decks, and punched out the back of the ship. The impact was so hard that the cruiser actually cracked in half. Gas and fire erupted from the broken ship. The beautiful silver vessel spun out of control. Dead in the water on the bridge of the hobo, Jay stared at his screen, his mouth open. "Direct hit," he whispered. I can't believe it worked." "Targeting solution acquired, sir," Kara shouted, sounding more alive than she had all day. That got their attention. On the Xylopheian flagship, the laughter stopped instantly. Admiral Vok dropped his glass. It shattered on the floor, spraying blue liquid everywhere. He stared out the window in shock. The lead cruiser, one of his best ships, was floating in two pieces. The debris was floating around it like confetti. "Report?" Vok screamed. "Sir?" Commander Rex shouted, his voice filled with panic for the first time. "That ship, it fired a kinetic slug. A railgun. It moved faster than our tracking computers could follow. The cruiser is gone, sir. Everyone on board is dead. A railgun?" Vok yelled. "Those are primitive. They are ineffective against our shields." "Not at that speed, Admiral." Rex said, "And look at the ship. It's still moving." Vok looked at the rusty ship. It didn't look like a joke anymore. It looked like a monster pretending to be a rock. "How many weapons does that thing have?" "I do not know," Rex admitted. "Our sensors cannot penetrate their hull. It is too thick." "The rust." "It is not rust, sir. It is ablative armor. It absorbs energy. Stop underestimating them." Vok roared, his face turning a dark shade of purple. "Order the fleet. Focus all fire on the hobo. Destroy them, now." Back on the hobo, the crew watched the alien ships turn. Hundreds of weapons turrets swiveled to point directly at them. The sky lit up with blue lights as the Xylophians prepared to fire everything they had. "Here comes the rain," Liam said, grabbing the handle of his chair to steady himself. "Shields at maximum," Kara yelled. "Brace for impact." Liam shouted. The fleet opened fire. Beams of blue and purple energy screamed across the void, hitting the hobo from every angle. The ship shook violently. Consoles exploded, sending sparks flying. The sound of metal tearing apart echoed through the hull. "Shields down to 60%. Kara cried out. "They are hitting us hard." "Jay, reload the main gun," Liam ordered. "Hit them again?" "It takes 5 minutes to recharge the capacitors, sir." Jay yelled over the noise of the ship being hit. "I can't fire that fast." Liam looked at the screen. The alien fleet was closing in, smelling blood. They were angry now. They wanted to crush the bug that had bitten them. "Then use the secondary guns," Liam said calmly. "All of them. Let's show them we aren't a one-trick pony." Jay grinned, a wild look in his eyes. He flipped a switch that uncovered a second row of buttons. "With pleasure, sir." The hobo, despite looking like a piece of junk, was covered in hidden hatches. As Jay pressed the buttons, those hatches blew open. Dozens of smaller missile pods and rotary cannons popped out. They looked rusty and old, but they worked. "Fire at will," Liam said. The hobo erupted in a storm of its own. Missiles streaked away from the hull, leaving trails of white smoke behind them. The rotary cannons spun up, spitting thousands of metal rounds into space. It wasn't elegant. It wasn't beautiful. It was loud, chaotic, and violent. The Xylophians, who were used to long-range, precise energy duels, were stunned. They had never seen a ship fight like this. The hobo was brawling. It was a street fighter in a ring of ballerinas. Missiles slammed into the sides of the alien cruisers, exploding against their shields. The kinetic rounds from the cannons peppered the smaller fighter ships, chewing them up like paper. "They are confused," Kara shouted. "They don't know how to react?" "Keep it up," Liam said. "Don't let them catch their breath." The battle had truly begun. The ship that no one took seriously was now the loudest thing in the sector, and it was hurting the bad guys. Liam looked at the chaos on the screen. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and surrounded. But for the first time in years, he felt alive. "Welcome to the fight," he whispered to himself. The space between the two fleets was no longer empty. It was filled with fire, smoke, and the debris of shattered ships. The Xylophonian armada, once a perfect silver wall of death, was now in chaos. Their beautiful formations were broken. Ships were turning in circles, trying to avoid the strange weapons coming from the ugly human ship. The bridge of the UES Hobo was shaking so hard that Captain Liam had to hold on to his chair with both hands. Red warning lights flashed everywhere, bathing the crew in a glow that looked like hell. "Shields are down to 40%. Ensign Kara screamed over the noise of alarms. "They hit the port side engine. We are venting plasma. Keep us facing them." Liam yelled back. "Don't let them get behind us." On the main screen, 3 Xylophonian destroyers were moving fast. They were smaller and quicker than the big cruisers, and they were angry. They had seen their brothers explode, and now they wanted revenge. They split up, coming at the Hobo from 3 different angles. Their blue laser cannons were charging up, glowing bright like tiny stars. "Jay, targets on the left and right," Kara warned. "They are trying to flank us." Jay didn't look up from his screen. His hands were a blur as he typed commands into the computer. "I see them. The targeting computer is too slow. It can't lock onto 3 ships at once." "Then don't use the computer," Liam shouted. "Use your eyes." Jay took a deep breath. He stopped looking at the green data screens and looked at the main view screen instead. He watched the way the alien ships moved. They were fast, but they moved in straight lines. They were predictable. "Switching to manual override," Jay said, grabbing the control stick. The manual targeting system was an ancient piece of technology, a heavy metal stick that vibrated in his hand. It felt like driving an old ground car instead of flying a spaceship. The first destroyer fired. A blue beam hit the Hobo's shields, making the ship groan like a dying whale. The shield flickered but held. "I hate that sound," Jay yelled. He pushed the stick forward. The Hobo did something very strange. Instead of turning slowly like a heavy ship, the ship suddenly stopped. It just stopped dead in space, fighting against its own momentum. Inside the ship, the crew was thrown forward against their seatbelts. "What are you doing?" Kara cried, checking her radar. "We are sitting ducks." "Watch this," Jay said through gritted teeth, with the ship stopped. Jay spun the ship 180 degrees on its axis. The huge, rusty hull rotated instantly to face the destroyer behind them. The maneuver was so sharp that the artificial gravity couldn't keep up. For a second, everyone felt weightless. The alien destroyer pilot was confused. He expected the human ship to run away. Instead, the Hobo was suddenly looking him right in the eye. Before the alien could react, Jay pressed the firing button. The Hobo's front rotary cannons opened up. They were simple guns, designed to shoot down asteroids, but they were terrifying when used against a ship. Thousands of metal bullets tore through space. They slammed into the destroyer's front glass and engines. The alien ship didn't have time to raise its shields on that side. It crumbled like a soda can, spinning away into the dark. "1 down," Jay said. 2 to go. The remaining 2 destroyers hesitated. They pulled back, confused by the strange movement of the human ship. "How did we do that?" Kara asked, amazed. "The inertia dampeners shouldn't be able to handle a turn that fast." "They can't," Liam said, a small smile on his face. "That's why the bolts on the floor are popping out. We are tearing the ship apart, but it's worth it." Jay looked at his targeting screen again. "Captain, I need more power to the weapons. The capacitors are draining too fast." "Reroute power from life support," Liam ordered. "Sir, if we do that, the air on the lower decks will stop circulating," Kara warned. "We don't need the lower decks to fight," Liam said. "Do it," Kara typed the command. On the screen, a red light flashed in the engineering section of the ship. The guns began to spin faster, glowing with a hungry energy. Suddenly, Jay looked up. "Sir, look at the hull readings." On a smaller screen, they saw a diagram of the Hobo. The ship was covered in black marks where the alien lasers had hit. But the hull wasn't breaking. It was smoking. It's the ablative armor, Jay explained, looking at the data. The aliens are firing energy beams. When the beams hit our hull, the outer layer of the ship burns away. It creates a cloud of gas and dust. That cloud is absorbing the next laser shot. They are literally burning off our paint, and the smoke is protecting us. Liam laughed. They think we are armored with the best steel in the galaxy? Really, we are just covered in cheap, flaky coating that burns when they shoot it. It's driving their sensors crazy, Kara added. They can't get a clean lock on us because we are smoking so much. The Xylopheian flagship was in a state of panic. Commander Rex was shouting orders at his crew. Why can't we hit them? They're just a scrap heap. Fire everything. Admiral Vok was standing near the window, gripping the railing so hard his knuckles were white. He watched the hobo on the main viewer. The human ship was ugly, yes. It was leaking gas and sparks, and it moved with a jerky, clumsy grace. But it was dangerous. It is a trick, Vok hissed. It is some kind of human technology I have never seen before. Admiral, they're weapons, Rex said, pointing to the screen. They are using kinetic slugs. Heavy, solid metal. We have energy shields. Shields should stop solid objects easily. But these slugs, they are moving so fast. And they are big. Vok narrowed his eyes. Speed is mass, Commander. If something moves fast enough, it acts like it has infinite mass. They have turned simple rocks into planet killers. What do we do, sir? Rex asked. We have lost 6 cruisers and 12 fighters. We have only scratched the human ship. Vok turned away from the window. His face was filled with cold anger. We cannot beat them with long-range combat. Our sensors are confused by their smoke, and our shields are failing against their hammers. We must close the distance. We must swarm them. Send in the fighters. All of them. I want that ugly ship crushed by numbers. Back on the hobo, the crew saw the change on the radar. Oh no, Kara said. They are launching swarms. Hundreds of small fighters are coming our way. Jay looked at his ammunition counters. Captain, we have enough ammo for the big guns, but the point defense cannons are running low. If those fighters get close, they will pick us apart. We are like a tank, and they are mosquitoes. Liam thought for a second. The ship was vibrating violently now. The structural integrity warning was flashing a steady red. They couldn't take much more of this pounding. We need to clear the board, Liam said. Jay, can you load the party popper protocol? Jay blinked, then a huge grin spread across his face. The party popper? I thought that was just a theory. We have the warheads for that? In the back behind the food storage, Liam said. Go to the tactical menu. Look under useless junk. Jay tapped a few keys. Found it. Experimental cluster mines. They look like trash cans, sir. That's the point, Liam said. Deploy them. Let's give them some real junk to look at. Jay pressed a large yellow button. On the back of the hobo, a large cargo bay door opened. It didn't fire missiles. Instead, it ejected hundreds of floating metal objects. They looked like floating debris, old satellites, chunks of metal, and floating canisters. The alien fighters swarmed toward the hobo, their pilots eager to destroy the beast. But as they flew into the cloud of debris, Jay pressed another button. Activate, Jay whispered. The floating trash exploded. But it wasn't a big, fiery explosion. It was a shockwave. Each piece of debris released a powerful electromagnetic pulse, or EMP. The shockwaves knocked into the alien fighters. Their systems fried instantly. Their engines died. Their controls froze. One by one, the sleek alien fighters turned into dead metal rocks, drifting helplessly in space. Ha! Jay shouted. They are disabled. They are sitting ducks. Now, clean up the mess, Liam ordered. Jay switched back to the rotary cannons. He aimed at the disabled fighters, which were now easy targets. The cannons chewed through the frozen enemy ships. There were no dogfights, no fancy flying. Just target practice. On the bridge of the Xylopheian flagship, the crew watched in horror. Sir! Our fighter wing is gone, Rex yelled. They used, garbage? They used garbage to destroy our finest pilots? Admiral Vox slammed his fist on the console. Enough! I want that ship destroyed. Bring the fleet around. Focus all power on the forward batteries. We will ram them if we have to. I will not be defeated by a rust bucket. But as the Xylopheian ships moved to attack, the hobo began to change again. Captain, Kara said, her voice trembling slightly, I am reading a massive power spike inside the ship. It is coming from the reactor core? Liam nodded. I know, Kara, I authorized it. Sir, Jay said, looking at his readouts with wide eyes. The reactor is going to 150%. If we hold that for more than a few minutes, the ship will explode. Are we doing a suicide run? Liam looked at the screen. The alien fleet was regrouping. They were still huge, still powerful. The hobo had hurt them, but it hadn't won yet. They needed something bigger. They needed the hammer. Not a suicide run, Jay, Liam said softly. We are just going to wake up the main gun for real. He looked at the young crew. They were scared, but they were focused. They were doing the impossible. Prepare for the Earthshaker shot, Liam commanded. This is what this ship was built for. Not to patrol, not to look pretty, but to kill. The inside of the UES hobo was screaming. The metal beams that held the ship together were groaning under the stress. Lights were popping and exploding, showering the bridge in sparks that smelled like ozone. It was hot too. The temperature was rising fast because the cooling systems had been shut down to give. Every bit of power to the weapons. Kara wiped sweat from her forehead. Captain, the reactor is at maximum capacity. If we don't fire soon, the core is going to melt down. We will explode before they even shoot us again. Hold it together, Captain Liam said, his voice steady and calm, cutting through the noise like a knife. Jay, is the target locked? Jay was staring at his screen. His hands were shaking, not from fear, but from the adrenaline rushing through his veins. The targeting reticle was blinking red, centered on the massive flagship of the Xylopheian fleet. The enemy ships were getting closer, forming a tight wall of silver, metal, and blue light. They were angry, and they were coming to finish the job. The target is locked, Jay said, his voice barely a whisper. But sir, the firing sequence is unstable. The main gun. It hasn't been used at this power level in 20 years. The barrel might crack. If it cracks, we only have to fire once, Liam said. He stood up and walked to the front of the bridge, looking out at the terrifying view. Open the blast shields on the main cannon. Let them see what is coming. Outside the ship, the Xylopheian fleet was confused. Their sensors were going wild. The ugly human ship was glowing. Not from engine exhaust, but from the hull itself. The rusted metal was turning a bright, angry red as it heated up. On the bridge of the alien flagship, Commander Rex was panicking. Admiral, their energy readings are off the charts? It is impossible for a ship that size to generate that much power. They are going to blow up. Admiral Vox stared at the screen. He didn't want to believe it. He refused to believe that a rusty old bucket could beat his grand armada. It is a trick, Vox snarled. They are trying to scare us so we run away. Do not falter. Order all ships to fire. Destroy them now. But Admiral, the radiation levels. Fire. Vox screamed. The Xylopheian fleet unleashed hell. Hundreds of beams of energy shot out from the alien ships, all converging on the hobo. It was enough firepower to destroy a small moon. The beams hit the hobo and washed over it, inside the bridge. The ship shook so violently that Jay was thrown out of his chair. He scrambled back up, grabbing the console. Shields are failing. We are taking hull damage on the lower decks. Stay focused, Liam yelled, holding onto a railing. Jay, fire the gun, now. Jay crawled back to his seat. His hand hovered over the big firing button. The alarms were deafening. The ship felt like it was tearing apart. He looked at the picture he had taped to the corner of his console, a simple photo of his dog back on Earth, He thought about how the aliens wanted to destroy his home. For Earth, Jay said. He slammed his fist down deep inside the hobo, the earth shaker. Cannon woke up. It was a massive railgun that ran the entire length of the ship's keel. For years it had been silent. Now it roared. The sound wasn't a bang. It was a crack, like the sky breaking open. A blinding flash of white light erupted from the front of the hobo. The recoil was so strong that the entire ship was pushed backward 3 miles in a split second. The force crushed the rear bulkheads, destroying the engines instantly. The hobo was dead in the water, drifting without power, but the shot was away. The projectile was not a simple bullet. It was a tungsten rod wrapped in a magnetic field, traveling at 10% of the speed of light. It tore through the vacuum, invisible to the naked eye, moving faster than human eyes could track, faster than alien computers could calculate. It hit the Xylophonian flagship dead center. There was no explosion at first. The ship simply folded. The rod punched through the thick shields like they were made of paper. It went through the front armor, the bridge, the engineering decks, and out the back. The kinetic energy was so immense that the flagship didn't just break. It disintegrated. The metal turned to liquid, then to gas. The shockwave expanded outward, smashing into the ships that were flying behind the flagship. The line of enemy ships closest to the blast was instantly vaporized. Ships further away were tossed around like toys in a bathtub, their systems fried by the magnetic pulse. On the bridge of the hobo, the lights went out. The humming of the engines stopped. The violent shaking stopped. Everything was suddenly quiet and dark. The only light came from the red emergency lamps on the floor and the brilliant flash outside the window. We did it, Kara said, her voice trembling in the darkness. Liam pulled himself up from the floor where he had been thrown. He checked his arm. It was bleeding, but he didn't care. He looked out the viewport. The beautiful Xylophonian fleet was gone. In its place was a graveyard of floating debris and expanding fireballs. The Earthshaker had cut a line of death right through the heart of the enemy formation. Report, Liam said softly. Jay tapped his console, but it was dead. Main power is offline. The gun drained everything. We are floating on emergency batteries only. Life support is working, but we have no engines. We can't move. We can't fight. We don't need to fight, Liam said, looking at the destruction. They are broken. On what was left of the enemy communication channels, there was screaming. The Xylophonian ships that had survived the blast were terrified. They saw their flagship, the pride of their empire, turn to dust in a second. They saw the ugly human ship, sitting in the dark, smoking but victorious. They had no leader. They had no courage left. Retreat! A voice shouted over the open frequency. All units retreat. Jump to hyperspace immediately. Go! The surviving alien ships turned around. They didn't even try to organize. They ran. They engaged their warp drives, disappearing into blue streaks of light, leaving their damaged brothers behind. They were fleeing the monster in the rusty hull. Within minutes, the sector was empty of enemies. Only the hobo and the burning wreckage of the Xylophonian vanguard remained. Kara started to laugh. It was a nervous, happy laugh. They ran. The big, scary aliens ran away from us. Jay was breathing hard, trying to calm his heart down. I can't believe the gun worked. I thought we were dead. Liam walked over to the captain's chair. It was bent sideways, but he sat down anyway. He picked up his cracked coffee mug from the floor where it had fallen. Miraculously, it hadn't broken. Good job, everyone, Liam said. Jay, that was the best shot I have ever seen. Kara, you kept us alive when we should have been toasted. Thank you, sir, Kara said, her smile fading a bit. But what now, sir? We are dead in the water. The engines are destroyed. We are stuck here. Liam looked at the radar screen. It was empty. The planet below them was safe. The aliens were gone. We send a distress signal, Liam said. Eventually a tow ship will come. They will scrap the hobo. We will probably get medals and then retire. I am okay with that, Jay said, leaning back and closing his eyes. I am very okay with that. Me too, Kara said. The bridge was quiet again. The panic was gone, replaced by a heavy, tired feeling of peace. They had done the impossible. They had saved the planet with a ship that nobody wanted. The hobo was just a piece of junk now, floating in space, but it was the most dangerous piece of junk in the galaxy.